Going back to one of our top stories, the Senate approving the 4.5 trillion peso national budget for 2021. Let's take a deeper look into next year's spending bill. We now go above and beyond the headlines with the sponsor, Senate Finance Committee Chairman, Senator Sonny Angara. Good evening, Senator. Welcome to Newsnight.
Hi, good evening, Pia, and good evening to all our viewers.
Well, Senator Sonny, year in and year out, at least pre-pandemic times, every time the budget approval comes around, there's always that chorus of complaints about who got the bigger share of the pie, etc. But now the concern is, will we have enough in the budget so that we can survive this pandemic, so that the government can take care of the entire country for this pandemic? Can you tell us more about that?
Yes, you're correct, Pia. No? I think this year, the 2021 budget is all about COVID-19 related interventions. And we're talking about enough money for vaccines, for storage of vaccines, for transport of vaccines. It's about strengthening our healthcare system, ensuring there are sufficient healthcare workers, ensuring there are enough hospital beds, and also sort of making those adjustments to the new normal in our public school system, in our national broadband system, so our ICT or Information Communications Network. These have all kind of been affected by COVID, and we need to adjust accordingly. So those were the interventions that the committee looked at, and of course also given the recent spate of calamities, Pia, we also needed to expand our calamity and disaster funding, because I think part of the new normal is not only adjusting to COVID-19, but also the increased ferocity of some of the typhoons, and perhaps, God forbid, but better to be prepared for the coming calamities.
Right, that's right. No, so COVID plus calamity, double whammy for us. Senator Sonny, the Senate has approved it already. So, syempre, we're going to go into the Bicam already. What do we expect when we get to the Bicam? Are there going to be wranglings? What's going to happen there?
Well, there's usually, we'll have to see, we have to check the House version to see what are the conflict points. And then usually we focus on those, and we try to agree on as many as we can, and then so we can focus on the different versions, assuming there are differences in the versions, and usually there are differences. But I did hear some House officials like Speaker Velasco wanting to increase the calamity fund. So I think on certain points there's also going to be some agreement that COVID and calamity related funding would need to be at the forefront more than in past years, Pia.
Mm-hmm. And if at the forefront, front and center, that's going to mean also that, syempre, there is that concern that, are we going to have enough of those funds? Will there be enough allocations? What happens if those allocations fall short of what's needed?
Well, I think we placed around 50 to 60 billion for COVID-related vaccine or vaccine-related expenses. So it depends really on the eventual cost of the vaccines, because we're hearing as much or as low as 600 pesos. I think this is for the AstraZeneca vaccine, and then you're hearing around 3,000 or 5,000 for the other vaccines. So it depends really on the cost per unit of the vaccine. But given if those are the parameters, you're looking at around maybe 20 million up to as high as maybe 80 million of the population being vaccinated. So, but I'm just speaking of the Senate version, Pia. No, as you said, we still have to meet with the House, and they may have a different view on things. So, but hopefully these are some of the things we can come to an agreement on. Then the priority for vaccines, the need for cold storage facilities should we choose to purchase certain types of vaccines which need the cold chain storage, and of course we also need to provide funds for the frontline agencies which assist those who have been severely affected by the pandemic. You're talking about people who lost their
Right.
jobs, people on the margins, people who in the informal sector, for instance, those who are assisted by the DSWD. COVID-19, we are already a highly
Mm-hmm.
unequal society in the sense of having a lot of poor people. So it's almost unanimous or universal that COVID will worsen the state of these people. So we have to make sure those agencies dealing with those who have lost their jobs, yung mga nawalan ng trabaho, yung mga nangailangan po ng pagkain, they must have the funds to deal with these contingencies, Pia.
Senator Sani, my last question. People might have forgotten this already because this happened way before the back-to-back typhoons, Rolly, especially Ulysses. No? So medyo baka nakalimutan, naging nasa back burner na siya. No? But I remember very clearly how the struggle for the House speakership appeared to threaten the approval of the 2021 budget. But now it looks like things have worked out for all of you, for both houses of Congress, and we are on schedule. Is that accurate, Senator Sani?
That's correct, Pia. The Senate worked long hours, even after the recent typhoons. Even if some of our employees were affected, some employees would even sleep in the office. But we really made it a point to keep to the schedule, and also thanks to the House, because they also worked very hard to overcome some of the internal perhaps disagreements, but they got it to the Senate in time, and I think there is enough time in the next few weeks remaining in the legislative calendar to have a new budget by January 1 of next year. And we know this is probably something that's much needed by our countrymen, Pia.
Senator Sani Angara, thank you very much for joining us this evening and for coming to the phone. Salamat po, sir. Stay safe.